Welcome to the Infinity Loop Group. I'm Riley.
I'm Krista.
And we are diving into It's Passing Through. These last two chapters will be the last of kind of the storytelling segment of this book. And we were going to be moving into the building the container, which is much more breaking down into the rules of kind of engagement, how we integrate all these lessons from the stories so far.
Well said.
It's passing through. All great spirituality is about what we do with our pain. Richard Rohr.
These next two chapters from these visions I got may be my most favorite two chapters of the whole book. And it's going to be a fun ride. It's going to be a fun ride talking about these. April 2017 was the first time I got this image. This makes me crack up. But this is just, these two chapters are just so the delight of the capacity to see visions and how that shows us reality in a different way, past what our normal vision sees. Anything you're going to say?
No, I love it. Okay. I love your happiness.
I'm excited. April 2017 was the first time I got this image. The front of me appeared normal, but the back of me was completely open and one with the lush, dense green forest that was all around me. It would be a place you would imagine fairies live. My feeling was it was my letting go of my identification of me, the solidness of holding all that has transpired in this body of mine. I felt the letting go, the seeing of life all around me that I was one with. But it's eerie to see yourself with no backside. I hope people can see this vision of what this is like. Then as I lay in the bathtub in a hotel in Portland last night, this is now May of 2017, it triggered a memory. Nearly the entire time I was in Portland, memories were shuffling through my mind. I was having recollections I hadn't previously let settle in me because they were surrounded by trauma with my necessary nemesis. I was able to experience them as a witness and not as something that had the power to name me or diminish me in any way. I was just the observer. The tub memory, something that happened in a tub, which was associated with the other memories that had taken over my brain the previous 36 hours that I was in Portland, came with more intensity. It was a startling awareness about an incident that was distressing from this vantage point. I wasn't able to see clearly when I was up close and personal with it at the time of its occurrence. With my disheartening and sickening awareness, deep physical pain hit my breastbone. It's a specific pain I've only experienced when I was in the cult. Now it was 40 years ago. And in a few other situations in certain relationships. It's been diagnosed as anxiety or PTSD, but I don't believe that's the whole picture. It may be tied to trauma, but I also think it's tied to my guidance system. More specifically, I suspect it's tied to where my new sword of truth is in my chest. Our inner authority, our guidance system, remember that's the sword of truth that lives inside of us, will do a lot to help us wake up. In all those situations, someone else was violating the sovereign place which belongs only to me, your word that you love so much, our own sovereignty. And I was letting them. But I'm willing to die for that truth. Splitting from that truth is no life at all. This sensation may also be about feeling my pain and being in solidarity with those who've suffered in this way. It's the sober awareness of the suffering of the whole world. I'm not sure and don't know I'll ever understand it fully in this life. Our bodies speak to us, alert us to when we're not where we need to be, believe some thoughts that aren't ultimately true, or discerning something. They're trying to get our attention. I'm not yet clear what this pain is about, but it was making me present to what hurts my heart. And well, it should. As I lay in the tub, it was as though I was experiencing being in a cross between a Pixar film and a Salvador Dali painting. My chest hurt so badly, like I just woke up from surgery in which my chest cavity was cut open and it's time for another pump of morphine. In that place of pain was a 4-inch wide hole. Again, I had no backside to me, and I was again in this forest. But you could also see right through me in this 4-inch hole. My front side was more like an inch-thin mannequin form, so my sides were non-existent as well. All I could do was breathe deeply and intentionally to let this pain move, and it was moving through the large hole in my chest. I cried, but not for myself and what I went through in the bathtub memory, but out of love and healing for all involved. I witnessed the cast of characters associated with the person involved in my memories moving through my chest. It was like they were swimming through my chest. As I was wishing for their highest and best and healing in their hearts and lives, I had to keep breathing. I may be dissolving into this love that is rich in life and magic. At least I hope that's what's happening. I want to do what is mine to do, and if that means it's less of me and my identified self, so love and healing flow through me, I'll take it. I had just listened to Glennon Doyle speak about how our pain is our power and that we need to not run from our pain, but be present to it. I think she inspired the vision. My pain, feeling my heart, and my desire to let what hurts transform into healing for others may be what's happening. For so many years, what has occurred within the walls of my form created a way of my being in the world that didn't always allow the flow of life and magic that brought healing. But my deepest yearning of my soul has been to be love and light in the world. But my ego's yearning to be separate, superior, and important got in the way, trying desperately to not dissolve into nothing. It's a tough road to hoe when you're trying to get healed after abuse. It gets confusing as to how to dissolve into love when you already feel dissolved by the abuse. That's where the psychological and spiritual things need to be teased out.
Would you describe that the dissolved by the abuse more of a disassociation than where when you're dissolving by love, it's almost you're connected to everything instead of separating yourself from everything?
It's interesting. Yeah, because dissociation is a coping mechanism to survive trauma.
Well, because you're describing dissolving in two different ways, and kind of one I see as a very positive dissolving, where you're dissolving your ego, you're dissolving your individual perspective, and you become so welcoming of everything that it's like, no, you are of service to the universe. It's not that you don't have your boundaries anymore. It's not that you don't have you're still individual, wonderful aspect of yourself, but you don't hold tightly to that, where the dissolving and disassociating is very much the opposite. And a lot of people that disassociate still lash out at others and don't realize, they're unaware of the consequences of their actions on others because they're so disassociative.
Yeah, it's very good conversation to have, Riley, and bringing it up. Not clear enough to say that through abuse, it's always dissociation.
What do you see
as the difference?
As the main difference between dissolving from love and dissolving from abuse?
Okay. being dissolved from abuse, there is such a violation of boundaries and your own psychological healthy ego structure that can help you cope in this world that just leaves so much damage. This is what my necessary nemesis tried to do. This is what the cult did, which is they're very similar qualities, is they break you down to where there is nothing left of you of a healthy defense of a sense of self. It is though you are taken up from their own pathological narcissism and psychopathy to own you. There's no sovereignty for dark reasons as an extension of their narcissism, right?
So you're saying you dissolve not from dissociation, but from coping and adapting to someone's abuse?
Your own psychological structure that is God-given is so taken down that you can no longer stand in your own sovereignty. Your sovereignty is taken in such a place where it's just your nervous system is traumatized. Everything is about traumatized and abuse, where darkness has come in to take away even how we were created to be.
So I how I receive that then is the dissolving in abuse is when you no longer have healthy boundaries, right? Like that would be what I see the dissolving, right? Where someone can be in love and connection, but still have and be dissolved into love, but still have healthy boundaries. The dissolving with abuse is, no, they're like dissolving your boundaries so that they can take advantage of you.
And that's why boundaries to me are so, it's always the both and in the infinity loop. And then dissolving into love, it's so weird because you can see the same things, but it's the presence of love is even healing the trauma. It's healing your nervous system. It's saying, yes, I give my life over to love. Yes, there's some fullness that I am connected to, this abundant field of the infinity loop, that I can say, oh, yes, I can turn the other cheek. Oh, yes, I can want these people's good, so good that I will dissolve. You are letting the ego be in service of the soul. You can't destroy the ego by abusing the ego. Well, this is going to be a really ongoing conversation of how to articulate this. So going back to where we were, I'm finally figuring out how to be sturdy yet dissolve into love and light. I don't want to medicate my pain and be told it shouldn't be there. Actually, it should. It's mine and it's beautiful. And Glennon says it's my power. Today, may my pain be transformed into my power to be a healing conduit where life and love travel freely through, even if I'm dissolving and I have a hole in my chest that would only be indicative of someone who has died. I think my vision is showing me that death to my false self is surrounded by life and power to create, heal, and transform. I think I'm being wooed to die before I die, as they say. It's dying to my attachment to my ego-defined self. So I'll operate more from the true self. I don't think I'm done with this snatched body parts morphing into less of me vision and lush green life flowing through me. My intention is to live my life now courageously showing up for what is mine to do, nothing more and nothing less. I think I need to keep dissolving and feeling my pain, letting what needs to flow through me to be able to do that work. How would we experience life if we experienced our forms dissolving in this forest where things transform, that's all around us and is one with us? What if our deep pain ripped our hearts open and all those involved could flow in and out in this mysterious realm where healing happens? What if we got out of the way and set an intention to let events transpire that will bring the highest and best for all? I wonder if that's how we'll feel when we die. I don't think death will be a bad thing. And I want to say what I'm describing that is true forgiveness. When you really have forgiven, that is the gift of forgiven. Forgiveness is not excusing behavior as though it was okay and pretending what was done was really nothing. It's not. It's the ability, like that just shows how deeply to forgive, where all I want for those people is for them, for their highest and best.
I have a question for you on just how this imagery of the lush green forest and fairies, I know you've always been very connected to those types of things, but how do you use that imagery in your life, and how has it changed how you view the world?
Great question. It's life. It's the mycelium kind of thing, the what's going under the earth.
Right. I mean, the dense forest is the most concentrated form of life on this planet, yes, I believe, right?
There's a lot of the earth, the ground, the humus. So it's very grounding. It's very childlike. It's just teeming with life, which to me it couldn't even be more abundant. Like being in nature, that's the equalizer. You get a poor man and you get a rich man out in the forest, and guess what? They both get to enjoy it. Right? There's no owning of it. It belongs to all of us, and it's right there. And I can just see it right now if I'm just like going through the portal, and there is something about that alchemy that you can see with the fairies and that kind of forest where things can transfigure and transpire or transform mystically, and because it's seeing things differently, like it's how quickly things can be changed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, it's a magical realm. What were the biggest takeaways for you about kind of the whole sense of dissolving?
Well, it was the biggest thing was what I brought up. What is the difference between dissolving in love and dissolving in trauma or pain or suffering, because I feel like I see a lot of people dissolving into their pain or suffering, and not really a lot of people that are dissolving into love and the abundance.
Yeah, the sturdy yet dissolving. I think there's something about, how much air and water we really are, and how we don't need to be dense. That's something Eckhart Tolle talks about, like having the pain body, and we're very dense. It's where all the trauma just hits us, but like letting things flow through us. If we saw differently with the mystical vision, we would see we're more just essence, not this over-identified form of caring. That's the evil, even victim consciousness. This is what I'm carrying in my body, for my trauma. It's like, no, we can dissolve, and that can flow through us.
Well, and not only do most people carry it, most people I talk to identify with it. Like it becomes a part of their persona that they're almost proud of. Like they carry their trauma like a badge that is meant to give that it's meant to be a pass that gets them into special clubs, and not something that they should be working on to dissolve and let go and move past. But I find a lot of people use it as an excuse to be shitty themselves, and
it becomes an excuse. And, I was thinking about this, is that I felt because of my abuse that I had enormous responsibility to spend it was like my part-time job for decades to heal, to spend whatever it took financially, make whatever sacrifices I needed to make, spend as many hours a day working on myself to go, I have a responsibility to transform this pain and not transmit this pain. And when you go through trauma, whatever it is, whatever stuff you have that contributed to places that are not loving yourself and others well, what are you going to do about it? And there's no other way I would argue, than a spiritual practice, a daily spiritual practice. And that's what this book is, this Infinity Loop practice, that every day you spend some time renewing your mind in what is the truth and what you connect to deeply that reorients the way you are in the world. Okay.
I think that is a great bridge to this quote. I believe this is the fruit of forgiving life, ourselves, those who have offended us, and God. We have surrendered to mystery. It's a good death. We resurrect into who we truly are. Krista Vorse.
In its passing through, I write that I didn't think I was done with my snatched body parts morphing into less of me vision. I was correct. Well, at a group meditation where I was supposed to focus on something else, I felt led down another path. A vision of the main character, my necessary nemesis, that was the catalyst for the 4-inch hole in my chest that I referred to in its passing through, came into my awareness. The situation I envisioned in regards to this person was large enough and had 3 other people in the image that I had no choice but be ripped open wide from side to side of my torso and down to my hip crease. I needed that much space for them to pass through. My spiritual intention is to let others pass through me now and to not let them get caught on me, and for me to not get caught by them. My intention is to remove myself from the story, the outcome, the control, to let love have her way beyond anything I will ever know to be right. I have neither the power nor the wisdom, and so I surrender. By letting this person and his way of being in the world that I experienced as extremely painful pass through me, I was cracked open so wide that it made less of me. In that hole now was one big, beautiful yellow ball with a cream glow around it. It was love, and it was the whole world. In the transformational path of dealing with trauma, we're always given gifts. Everything becomes an invitation to do our work, to welcome the great love affair with ourselves, and to allow what threatened to annihilate us grace us with the capacity to dissolve into love. And that's why, Riley, back onto the question you asked, if someone has been abused and they can get to us, we can help them alchemize the abuse into true spiritual transformation.
Into the great love affair?
Into the great love affair. It's even, St. John of the Cross, what he went through with all this religious abuse. Oh, it was just horrible in his dark night of the soul, where he just thought God had abandoned him. It was through abuse. God used it to liberate him. That is the thing. And I'm using abuse now to liberate myself, even of what I allow in my life, don't allow in my life, become immune to, bounce back into deeper self-love versus being affected by people's narcissism. I mean, if you really have great spiritual direction, which I will confidently, competently declare I can take someone through, they can become not only so integrated into your journey with such sweetness and tenderness, but turn you into your superpower. This comes after the lessons, the work, the availing of ourselves as we wrestle with the angel and come out changed. What came to me was my necessary nemesis, who I was seeing in the vision, desperately grasped at addictive strategies to get the love that he felt disconnected from to live inside of him. And that's why Jesus says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It's like you can just see from that higher view and go, we're, whatever to degrees that we are on these spectrums of unloving behavior, is we are grasping to get the love and validation that we are disconnected from. When we aren't aware the whole world lives inside of us, we hunger for someone to give us that love. We don't know how to find what lives inside of us. When you asked me, like, how does that vision of the green forest affect your spiritual life? I go back to this over and over again when I feel any scarcity. I'm like, wait a minute. And I go, no, 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 no. Land on it. That's right. The whole world lives inside of you. The whole world is right here inside of you.
That makes me think of anytime I'm really feeling just like lonely or really separate from you or just the world, maybe even separate from myself sometimes. It happens very rarely these days, but it still happens. I think of the vision I had of your father and my dad's dad when they had both been gone, and I had the vision of them standing over my bed, talking about me, but they were talking about me like it was a football game. Like they're like, oh, I like what he did here, and then when he did this here. And it was very much like talking over me as if I was not there. And I just hold that memory with me often because I feel like our ancestors are with us always, whether we are able to see it or not. It's a positive thing to remember and feel inside of yourself. And so
that's perfect. You say that because I'm about to say that in this chapter, which is right.
Didn't even read ahead yet.
You didn't even, well, you've read it, but you forgot it. Yeah, I forget this book. The kingdom of God is within you. We don't need the word God or to particularly care for the language to sense the truth of what that statement is referring to. That kingdom is everything our soul, spirit, and hearts want. That statement needs more press. It's so radical and mysterious, we can't really handle it. It must be false advertising. No matter how you react to the name of Jesus, he said some very cool things. You must become as a little child to enter the kingdom of God. To enter that realm that is so wildly free, you must be as open as little children. That's the gift. That's the gift I've been given. I've been called a lot of things in my now 58 years of mighty flaws. My childlike nature has even been framed as an undesirable trait, but not to me.
Or to me.
Perhaps it's why I see many visions and the veil between the worlds is thin for me. Someone who's childlike knows the world is an enchanted place, and so they go for the ride that's waiting for them. In one of the last phone conversations I had with my aunt before she died, she shared her compassion for me. Krista, you've had a very hard life. That's true, but the great mystery is that hard life has given me a wonderful life. In my desire to end my suffering, I discovered on the transformational path that I had a lot more power to think, believe, and experience life differently than I thought I did. That power has come to me through the paradoxical way of becoming as a little child. Even when our pain that rips our insides wide open, we're being prepared for the great reveal. We see that in that place is love that is there waiting for us to greet. A message came to me when I realized the whole was aglow and filled up with my favorite color, and that it was the whole world. No matter what happens to you in this life, because you have this love inside of you, you will always be rich, and it can never be taken from you. When we realize we have that, it all becomes a wonderful life. To have the whole world inside of us is also having those that are no longer with us inside of us. It's a way of being with them that is beyond the physical. My aunt who acknowledged my suffering is with me now in a way that defies explanation. And so I don't. At age 30, I got what my life purpose was: to encourage others to embrace life and to become as a little child that they may enter the kingdom of God. That was the language I resonated with at the time, and it is as meaningful to me today. I think to become as a little child is also about not being attached to our thoughts and stories. Our minds that get so addicted to our suffering keep us from entrance. Whatever it takes to woo us on this transformational path, to keep going until we get free from what gets stuck in us and free from what makes our heads spin in the wiring that creates our suffering, is worth it. We have the whole world waiting for us.
And I really want to emphasize no matter what happens to you in this life, because you have this love inside of you, you will always be rich and it can never be taken from you. I think that sentences together can really embody the empowerment of men to be vulnerable also. I think it really is the call to, there is no one that can truly hurt you, even when you are being the most vulnerable, when you understand that in your life, you have love inside of you that will keep you rich and can never be taken from you. No matter how much you share and bare your soul, and maybe someone doesn't receive it in a healthy or loving way, that does not take away from the love you have for yourself inside of you and the richness that is flowing through you.
Yes, and the love that you have for yourself. And that self is actually even the capital S self, the self that is God's love manifest through you, being the extension of you. And what you said was so good, because this is exactly that you brought that up, because the whole thing about vulnerable, right, is that you can be wounded. And when you are connected to that abundant field and you are so aware, someone can say something to you and it can even cause this pain, but you can allow it to crack you open to make you more beautiful and not name you. That is the paradoxical nature of how the trials and abuses and struggles and all the horrible things that have come against us can be such fodder to truly liberate us from our suffering. Our suffering is the doorway into liberation from suffering if it is done on the transformational path that is truly guided by numinous love, mirroring love. This is how God sees you: love, empathy, compassion, mercy, grace and mercy, loving you all the way.
And how do you bring that for your awareness that the whole world lives inside of you? What is your practice? Is it the imagery of the whole open and the forest behind you that you go back to often? Or what is the tool that you use to bring your awareness back to that?
The illusion that we live under is that we are a quaking aspen and we are not the whole organism, and that we are a forest of aspen. And so we are a little quaking, little brittle thing flowing in the wind, and that feels very frightening, but it is not true.
So you're saying, remember your roots.
Remember your roots. And this thing that I feel, especially because it's right here, it's all right here, and it cannot live there, Riley, unless I already made space of my ego. That's the emptying out that paradoxically is fullness. The emptying that is fullness. You look down and you're like, holy crap, the whole world, like I am aglow.
That's one of our favorite phrases when we're fasting, feeling the fullness in our emptiness.
Yes, exactly.
And I think how you can embody that in the spiritual aspect of feeling full in the emptiness, feeling full in the mundane, feeling full in the monotonous, because you understand that you are a tool for a bigger purpose.
So yes, because for the ego dissolving, the ego mind has to shut up. There can no be labeling, judging. Oh, he's the narcissist. He's the bad. He's the abuser, right? There's a place for us to have that discernment, to have that clarity, to actually have a label, to go, no, that behavior is not in line with love. That is characteristics of someone who thinks that way and tries to literally cultically dominate and take you out for their own sick needs, to try to suck life out of you, to get back what they are so disconnected from. There's a place for that. And you can do that work. And then in the inner stillness, the mystical view, there's no labeling them. I just saw them from such a high view. Or I saw this one person with such a high view. And then people that were kind of caught in the web. When you are going, all I want in my connection, my soul, is to truly die and get out of the way of my own ego defenses that are not helpful, or my own needing to be right or my own way, like all of that is gone. And it's like when you die, you get born again, right? When you die, you get to resurrect. That is the paradoxical nature. That is what I'm trying to woo people every day to, going, oh, no, there's a better way to live beyond the ego. So I can just almost go right here and go to the inner stillness and go, I see it. I see the yellow thing. I can temporarily feel disconnected and alone and sad and insecure and afraid. But when I get inner stillness, I come back to the truth that actually that is spiritual healing of trauma, because all of our traumas estrange us from the truth. And it's like becoming a child again. It's like you're going back to when you were little and in that enchanted place. And you go, oh, no. This is the truth. And it's not like a manipulation to go, I need to feel bliss. I need to feel okay. No, I'm okay feeling, I'm okay with whatever.
It's when you acknowledge and transcend those feelings that the bliss appears, right?
The bliss may just be like emptiness, like
right.
Nothingness. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was exactly what I was going to say.
You get so okay with just the spaciousness that you don't even have to label it.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to an end of another chapter. We look forward to us joining us again on our next podcast. Thank you so much for being on this adventure. May these tools help you and guide you in your life. Please share, subscribe, throw that like, throw a comment in there. We'd love to have the conversation develop and integrate you into the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless.